Hi, this is Lyle Sopel. I'm a jade and gemstone artist. And today I'm here in my home with my latest sculpture that I've been showing live on Facebook for the last couple of weeks. And first of all, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope it's going to be a terrific, successful year for everyone. We've had a little connectability problem in getting on Facebook today. Probably from our location. We're not very well situated for this in our area. So hopefully now we've got a live connection and we can talk about this. So it's all right to be in our home today rather than the studio, which is just not far from here, because this piece is nearly finished and it's the appropriate place to look at it in the setting where it's going to finally be. So as you can see, what I've done is put in quite a bit of detail here in the eagle, and I've sculpted a tongue in the mouth of the bird, and I've left it attached just to the point of the beak. Now, that's a really great thing to do, and keeping it attached makes it secure so that I've got the effect of this very active and great expression on the bird, and got all the details in the mouth that I want. So this idea, it's called a bridge, where I keep the piece connected from one point to another, is how I manage the detail on the claws and the foot part of the bird. So what I would have done, and what I did do, is I left a little section below each claw point so it was attached as the tongue is to the beak. So I detailed it all, and that allowed me to keep it secure while I was working on it in various ways, so that any little bump or slip on the tool didn't knock off any of the detail parts. So after it was as thin as it needed to be, then I took out the support in the bridge, and it allowed it to be as delicate as it is. So this is the polished surface, how it's going to look, and that's done with a lot of felt polishing and some hand tools that I will demonstrate a little bit later on in our series. So being this first series of the new year, I'd just like to share that we're going to have probably a more structured kind of approach to this Facebook Live, and because we've got so many questions about specific things, I'd kind of like to address sort of one thing at a time every time we do this, so that I can talk in some length about the idea and question that we have. So today we're going to talk about inspiration and how to be dedicated to what you do. So this piece is nearly complete. And on the back side, you can see that the polishing aspect is part of it has been done, and the compound gets pushed right into the detailing of this bird. So that becomes a real challenge to get that out of there after it's been polished. So what I do is I use a heat gun, and the polishing compound has a wax base. So when I use the heat gun, it allows the wax to melt in the compound, and then I use a toothbrush and I just brush out all the residue from the compound, and it cleans the surface like on the other side here of the bird. So this one's been cleaned up. So what's next on this piece is to texture the tail section and the head section. Because this is a bald eagle, they have a white tail and a white head. And so how I do that is I go over it with a coarse tool, like a 100 grit diamond tool, and I'll just sketch in and draw the texture of the head and leave that and not sand it. So it'll be left with a white tone to the surface of the jade, and that'll give the look of the bald eagle. So a contrast between the body and the head part and the tail, which will also be treated that way. So as you can see now, also the totem is complete. We've got all the detail in that I wanted it to have, and it still looks like it's this ancient figure left out in the weather. And I've added some leaves to bring it to a kind of a nice sort of organic base here, and it helps the idea of the jade coming from the top and the bottom. And this is a rough jade base as well, so it's very heavy. It's probably over 100 pounds just to sit like that, so it's quite difficult to knock it over. It's very stable. So in the end, I've put 2 holes in this now, and what we're going to do today is put the pins in it and secure it to the top of the totem. So this is how it's going to work. It's going to sit just like this. So if you could just step back and you can see how the whole effect of the piece. I hope you can see it clearly in this light, but that's it. So every piece I produce has a story, and in this case, this is a Thunderbird design from the West Coast natives of British Columbia. And what this is to the native population is an icon of nature. It's the power of nature, and in a sense of trying to understand what nature is around them. And so their culture developed around this art form of, and it's got a deep spiritual meaning to the people that created this kind of thing. So that's really interesting to me, and I love that thought of that nature has spiritual powers or spiritual ideas. And so I wanted to emphasize that, but still have this idea that this is the spirit of nature, and that the bird itself is nature. So the spirit is still alive, and this is a way to understand it. So that's the story content too. And I still haven't come up with a title for the piece, but I will by the time it's finished, which is pretty soon, next couple of days. So need to be careful with this, and the more I handle it, the worse it gets, I suppose. But I'm going to put it down. And so I want to talk about the question I had today. It was in regards to how do I be successful as a jade artist, or just how do I be successful as a creative person, is what I got asked. And so, well, in my case, I've been working with jade and gemstones for more than 4 decades, actually. And that's all I've done. I didn't have any other kind of work, and I use that as my livelihood. So I've produced some more than 7,000 sculptures over that time period that I designed and created, and that involved something like about 30 tons of jade. So there's a lot of work in that that lifetime of experience. So the question has been, how did I continue? How did I have this continued success throughout my career as an artist? So one of the key things that I think is so important as an artist is to have discipline. So with discipline, you can further your creative ideas and develop more as an artist, when you can understand how to speak your mind through the actual practice and repetitiveness of your work. So I think it's, first of all, you have to have the passion for what you want to do as an artist. But then secondly, you have to have dedication. So for me, when I first started, I would work 7 days a week and 12 hours a day, and I just loved it. It was just beyond anything else that I'd ever done in my life, and it was something that I just couldn't ever give up. So with that focus and concentration, I developed this sense of being creative every day. So it's much like being an athlete, where an athlete trains to do whatever he wants to run or jump or strengthen himself, lift weights. It's a practice. It's a thing that you have to do on a regular basis. And that's how I approached my creative process. So every time I went into the studio, I would be creative in some way, and I'd stay focused on it until the end of the day. So that's how I still do it today. I stay focused, and I keep this idea of creativity alive every day when I go into the studio. And that's my workspace, and I do not have interruptions while I'm there. I don't have my cell phone. I don't have a computer there that's connected to the internet, and I don't have people coming and going. It's my space. It's kind of like my wife calls me the monk, because I go into the studio and I shut out the rest of the world. So that's a really helpful thing to be able to do, and keeps your focus on what you want it to be. But I know there's challenges in life, and it's happened to me many times where, you have a lot of anxiety about certain things where, you might be, anxious about money for one thing, or you might have a lot of success in your life, and both of those things where you are anxious at one point, and also you could be anxious at one point or have a lot of success at the other point. And both of those kinds of things are a distraction to your creative process. So I had an author describe this not too long ago, and it really sang true to me that if you observe the creative process and what actually happens while you're doing it, you have to be in a neutral state of mind where you have to be comfortable within yourself, and you can't be distracted, and you want to be able to just be within yourself. So this author described the creative process as being at zero. And so there can be a -10 where there's all these distractions and the worst things that might happen in your life, like say divorce or death in the family. All those kinds of things could be at the -10. And then at the opposite side, there can be the +10, where you have lots of money and lots of success, and people want you all the time. So both those things are distractions. And so what I found that works the best for me is to come back to the zero, back to the neutral section of that part of me where I'm comfortable within myself and I'm not distracted by other things, and I have this ongoing practice that I follow so that my mindset is always there when I go into the studio. So there's other things, of course. There's a lot of ideas about taking action and being creative in some way. So I had an interesting thing happen a little while ago. I was in an art show with a variety of other artists, and I overheard one of my companion artists talking about one of his pieces. And the collector asked him, like, how did you come up with that idea? Where did that come from? And his reply was, I don't know. I really don't know. And I thought, wow, that's somehow so truthful that it's a mystery. Like, art is a mystery. Like, where do those ideas, those creative ideas come from? And my thought and my concept of it is through the discipline and your passion for what the art is. And so at some point in the near future and other live events, I'll talk about that aspect of it too, like where do those creative ideas come from. But first of all, you need to develop the discipline, and that's really the key issue for me. That's the core, the basics of being a creative person. So if you have questions that you want to ask me, you can do it on this feed, or you can email me, or just text me, and I will do my best to get back to you and let you know what I'm thinking. So thanks for listening today, and we'll be back in touch next week. So bye for now.